You are not under the law, but under grace. This cannot mean what many of you think it means or what you've been taught it means. And please let me show you why. Here we have a hint of what it's actually about just by reading the beginning of that sentence. Verse 14, for sin shall not rule over you, for you are not under the law, but under favor. So let's keep that in mind. For sin shall not rule over you. So you're going to see that Romans chapter 6 is actually about our death, burial, and resurrection with Messiah. So let's get into it. Romans chapter 6. What then shall we say? Shall we continue in sin to let favor increase? Let it not be. How shall we who died to sin, that's important, still live in it? Or do you not know that as many of us as were immersed into Messiah were immersed into his death? We were therefore buried with him through immersion unto death, that as Messiah was raised from the dead by the esteem of the Father, so also we should walk in newness of life. For if we have come to be grown together in the likeness of his death, we shall be also of the resurrection, knowing this, that our old man was impaled with him, so that the body of sin might be rendered powerless, to serve sin no longer. So when we were in our old man, we were in the body of sin. We had that sinful nature. But when we were immersed into Messiah, that old man was rendered powerless, and we could no longer be servants of sin. For he who has died has been made right from sin. And if we died with Messiah, we believe that we shall also live with him, knowing that Messiah, having been raised from the dead, dies no more. Death no longer rules over him. For in that he died to sin once for all. But in that he lives to Elohim. So you also reckon yourselves to be dead indeed to sin, but alive to Elohim in Messiah our Master. Now here we go. This is so important. Therefore, do not let sin reign in your mortal body to obey it in its desires. Neither present your members instruments of unrighteousness to sin, but present yourselves to Elohim as being alive from the dead, and your members as instruments of righteousness to Elohim. For sin shall not rule over you, for you are not under the law, but under favor. So we can see that this is not talking about not being under the law, the laws, instructions of our Father. And we know this because the Torah, the law, is not sin. It does, however, define what sin is. And 1 John chapter 3, verse 3 tells us that, or verse 4, whosoever commits sin transgresses also the law. For sin is the transgression of the law. So breaking the law is what sin is. So let's continue on to get more clarification. What then? Shall we sin because we are not under Torah, but under favor? Let it not be. Do you not know that to whom you present yourselves servants for obedience, you are servants of the one whom you obey, whether of sin to death or of obedience to righteousness? But thanks to Elohim that you were servants of sin, yet you obeyed from the heart that form of teaching to which you were entrusted, and having been, here we go, set free from sin, you became servants of righteousness. So going back to verse 12, therefore, do not let sin reign in your mortal body to obey it in its desires. So we do not continue in sin. I speak as a man because of the weakness of your flesh. For even as you did present your members as servants of uncleanness and of lawlessness resulting in lawlessness, so now, see, we're to be different now once we have put on Messiah, once we are immersed with Messiah. So now present your members as servants of righteousness resulting in set apartness. We are to be set apart. We are to be kadosh, holy, not looking like the rest of the world with all of its lust and desires and fulfilling its flesh. For when you were servants of sin, you were free from righteousness. So you weren't righteous. You were free from that. You were serving sin. What fruit, therefore, were you having then, over which you are now ashamed? For the end thereof is death. But now, having been set free from sin and having become servants of Elohim, you have your fruit resulting in set apartness, and in the end, everlasting life. That's the reward for set apartness. Here's the end. For the wages of sin is death, but the favorable gift of Elohim is everlasting life in Messiah, our Master. And so many just really don't understand what grace is. Grace equals favor. It's that you have been set free from sin having power over you. The Father gave you that grace. So going back to, for you are not under the law, but under favor. Or in the KJV, it says grace. So in this instance, when it says you are not under the law, it is speaking of you are not under the law of sin and death. Meaning, if you sin, it leads to death. But you, once you have immersed yourselves with Messiah, are no longer under that law of sin that's going to lead to death. You are under the Father's favor, the grace of having been set free from sin. So I hope that clears things up for those of you that are coming out of the churches. Those of you that have been taught that the law, the instructions of our Father are not a good thing. And I'll leave you with what Paul said about the law, about Torah, so that the Torah truly is set apart and the command set apart and righteous and good. If you love him, keep his commandments.